would have waited an eternity for this. It's over, Prime.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Agile Uprising podcast. I am your host, Troy, and with me I have Jay. Say hello, Jay.
Hello.
Chris.
Wow, we go by first names this time only.
Yeah, no more last names. Chris
What's
Murman,
up?
if you really want your last name out there. And Andrew. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm fired up. I'm ready for this
All right.
combo tonight.
Fired up. So what are we talking about? We're talking about what does a successful transformation, agile transformation look like? What does it even mean to have a successful agile transformation? This topic came because I've been reading a ton of bullshit on Twitter about how, agile transformations are a facade, or that agile is only for small teams. There's many things that go along, or fake agile, or somebody selling something, or about how all frameworks are scams or schemes and all this nonsense. So basically I said, hey, why don't we just talk about what does it mean to actually have a successful agile transformation? Is it team level? Is it the whole company? Is it some scaling thing? Is it a combination of that? Is it none of that? That's what the conversation is about. So maybe I can go first. Well, you know what? I will not. I will just pose this question to you, gentlemen. What does it mean to have a successful agile transformation in your mind? What does that look like? Does such a thing exist?
Troy, maybe before that, maybe we could give a little more coloring around what we mean by transformation, right? Because like I keep getting, I always hear this sentence and I always kind of go, does that really mean what we all think it means? But like, what's the difference between big T and little T transformation, right? So does anybody have an idea about, like, if someone says, are we doing big T or is this little T transformation? Like, what is that?
Is this the same thing as little A and big A agile? Is this scaled?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I hate that you're even bringing this up because I'm like, wow, we're bastardizing even the word transformation now.
Yeah, right. It's turning into a semantic argument already.
Yeah, it's like let's look at our rag status. Is it red or is it red or is it red? Right? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
So,
Okay.
Marvin, I'm gonna give it a shot, right? So if I have to delineate, no offense, Leff, big T, little T, low T. If I had to differentiate between big T and little T, right? When I think big T transformation, I think one of these whole hog type, we're going to reinvent how we act as an organization, right? So total, flat out, rip it out and replace it. Whereas little T, it would be like maybe me and Troy in some weird siloed vertical somewhere say, hey, you know what? Let's transform how we're working, get away from this waterfall project bullshit and go to a more flow-based system where we actually get the value out the door. Is that about what you're thinking? What do you other guys think?
Well, I don't, maybe, although I will say the next time I'm at a client and the transformation is going poorly, I'm going to say this is low T transformation. You've officially made that a thing now, Jay.
That's our next round of stickers. I'll do it up this weekend.
I have low T transformation.
But Jay, just real quick, Merman, but Jay, it's the same thing. You're saying the same thing.
Absolutely.
So I think big T transformation is it's what the strategy guys sell, like the big packages of it's not just agile teams. It's a role and title and talent transformations. It's funding transformation. It's like it reaches all aspects of the org. Whereas when I think of little T transformation, I heard someone describe it as delivery transformation, right? Like just come in and help our IT organization deliver software or whatever we deliver in a better way. I guess that's how I would describe it, but I don't even know if I'm right.
Well, go ahead.
Go on, Troy. Go on.
All right. The word agility, right, is a noun. Ability to move quickly and easily. Why would a company want to do that? Simply put, it's to make more money and compete with other companies in the market, right? Pretty much. Okay, so when we say we're going through an agile transformation, we should be helping a company do that. Everything else is noise. Everything else is just a way to achieve that, right? So if you're going to tell me that you're going to implement Scrum with one Scrum team and tell me that that's an Agile transformation, or that's what Agile is, and other things are not Agile, I just find that to be that's absurd. How can you achieve a state of agility at a company with just stopping at a team? I just don't see it, because you actually have to change the way you fundamentally potentially fund things, the way you prioritize work. For example, estimating is a big thing, right? So everyone wants to focus on estimating. When you look at, you should really be estimating, this actually comes, a great kind of quote on bastardizing from Troy McGinnis, you should be estimating the amount of time that you have in wait states. So basically, like, it's usually never the amount of time that the software is being developed. It's usually the other states in the system. So in order to do an Agile transformation, to be more Agile, the system has to change. So it has systems, and systems thinking and lean thinking are critical to this to like what I would consider a successful Agile transformation.
But so I think you're prefacing that, and I just heard you say it again. I think it's important that you preface it with Agile transformation, right? Transformation can be a lot of different things in an organization. It just doesn't have to be focused around, quicker, or being more agile. To me, the agility piece of it is, how do we accommodate with these guiding principles? How do we achieve being something different?
Yeah.
Without
Now,
having to stay the same.
Troy's definition, though, of agility, though, right? Like, I think that whether we call it an Agile transformation or not, one thing I want to say, I agree with what you're saying, Leff. I do think, though, that Troy's definition, like using that as an outcome, and we say, okay, well, what are the metrics that we would associate, that whole moving quickly to get stuff to the market, whatever it is.
I agree with Troy. I'm not disagreeing with him. I just wanted to put that kind of comment out there.
I'm
so
with
Uncle Bob, who I am a huge fan of, I think he's obviously one of the most fundamental people in our industry when it comes to software development and the Agile Manifesto, put out a tweet that said that big companies can't be Agile. And I just don't think that's true. I mean, I don't disagree with that statement. I don't think companies can ever be Agile. Okay.
Because I think they don't invest in the right capabilities as far as how do we create Agile people within the organization to support, the agility mindset and the principles, as opposed to how do we make our company move faster. So I feel like it's almost like a weapon to beat people with, as opposed to inspire and, purpose, mastery, and autonomy, right? Like getting them excited and invigorated and not crushing them every single day around noise, like you said, right? Metrics, stupid shit.
Well, so
go ahead, Chris.
Here's where I kind of see where Bob's coming from, from the standpoint of, for example, someone joined our company recently, so he was joining my account, and so I was kind of mentoring him about what it was like here, and he hadn't been consulting at such big companies that like we do at SIQ, and he said what, like, how do you know that we're successful in our mandate? And I said, well, it depends on the scope, it depends on what the SAL is, and yada yada yada. I said, but really in the end, I said, I don't ever walk into a company like the size of the companies that I work with or that we work with now. I never walk in and say, I'm burning this MFR to the ground. We're not like, and changing I'm flipping tables over. I'm changing everything. I used to, when I was younger, I used to think that, but I know I don't have the ability to do that. So what I say is, I told them, find pockets of agility that you can inspire, right? And encourage. And so maybe, I guess to a degree, I like what Bob, what he said is, the whole company maybe can't be Agile, but maybe I can find this little piece in here and I can improve that piece. But
why couldn't a company demonstrate fast time to market with high quality, with a learning culture and a learning mindset, and respect for people? Like, I don't understand how that is not achievable.
I think it comes down to, Troy,
Yeah.
Bob has a definition of the word Agile in his head. And that's why he's saying that big companies cannot be agile, because he thinks, per his perception, right, companies can never meet the expectation he's got in his head, his mind, his idea of what agile really means, right? And I keep going back to something that Leff said. And Leff, you probably made it as like a toss-off comment, but it really keeps rattling around in my head. The goal of a business is not to be good at agile, right? It's not to be agile. It's not to do agile. The goal is to be very good at absorbing change, right? Be good at change. You're not trying to be good at agile. You're trying to be good at absorbing shocks to your system as things go. And when viewed in that context, yeah, a business truly could be agile because they are able to absorb, like a SWOT analysis type, like, oh, well, this guy's coming up in our rear view, we got to change things. I think it is possible. But Troy, to take us full circle, I think it comes down to Bob has an idea of what agility is in his head, and he just doesn't think companies can ever meet that at scale.
But
it's fine.
But I really like what you said, Troy. I when you put it like that, I completely agree with you in the sense of why doesn't that make sense? Why wouldn't you want to do that? It just seems like, and maybe this is a coaching bias, right? Like, why wouldn't you want your organization to operate that way? Focus on, a better environment to inspire people to deliver higher quality and quicker or whatever, right? So it just seems odd to me that is not the norm.
Well, I think so. We want to talk about bias that I have. I hope that this isn't too inflammatory, but I think that there's a generation in our community that what air quotes agile, whether it's big A or little a, like what agile was when they first started was just this nice, cute little thing that we did and somehow caught fire, and organizations wanted more of it. And now now we have the agile industrial complex where we have companies that they make money off of agile. Like their whole goal is to make, they have said, we'll take the left side of the manifesto, but we're going to make money off the right side because that's where money is. So that's why I think that you see certain people in the community really railing against the scaling frameworks and big industry, big companies doing it, just because they saw it as this thing, and it's no longer that thing. Agile is no longer that little thing where you start out with one team and it's become, that word has taken on such a meaning that it was nowhere near what they intended to 20 years ago.
It's a loaded term at this point. It's got so much baggage that when anybody, think about it, if you put pieces of paper in front of the four of us and said, write out what agile means, what does define agile? Guarantee you all four of us will come up with a different answer. And that's not a statement of our training or our experience or our knowledge. I think it's all the stuff we're reading and learning about perception and human bias. And that's how we all look at things.
The 17 signatories of the manifesto never envisioned in companies. I guarantee you, every single one of us at work today or this week heard someone say, we're doing agile. Well, we've been doing agile over in this area for X amount of time. Like, what is that? Like, if you'd have told them when they were writing on that chalkboard, like, what do you mean do agile? Like, that's not what we meant it to do, but that's what it is. That's what the term means now. It's something you do,
Okay.
Right, and that's a failure of our industry, right? It's part of the failure of our industry by not allowing organizations to truly understand the value proposition and doing this differently, or doing transformation differently than just lying it over top of their existing framework or methodology. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I always I'll probably get a ton of hate for saying this, coaches. And if they say, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Hey, Leff.
You're in the matrix, Leff.
Leff.
Like, is that any better? Is that any better?
Now we can hear you. Yeah, go on.
Where did I get cut off?
I heard I'm going to get a lot of shit for saying this, and then then you went Terminator.
All right, so I'm going to get probably heat for saying this, but I ask as an interview question to coaches, how many successful transformations have you led, right? And if they rattle off a number, let's just say like 5, 6, 7, whatever it is, it's always a question mark for me. Big question mark pops up, and I'm like, successful transformations. Their number doesn't change, and I'm always curious because I've been a part of a lot of transformations, and I can't ever say that any of them were like successful in the sense of the way that they were sold. Now, change did occur, but what their expectations were for their success criteria, it never hit the mark.
So I'm looking at this list of things that we wrote down for air quotes good transformation. I don't know that I've ever been a part of a client or a company as an FT or consultant that's true. I can truly say, yep, we checked the box of transformation.
I think it goes back to Troy's original question, right? So what does a successful transformation look like? And based upon what Leff just said, right? I really think it's one of those eye of the beholder situations where depending upon what you went in with and your preconceived notions of success, I don't think you could say there's a cookie cutter successful agile transformations, or do you, Troy? Do you think there is a gold standard that here is or I guess to the panel, is there a gold standard that we could say, yes, this gets the 4 out of 4 stars. This is a successful agile transformation. And in order to achieve this, you must do X, Y, and Z. Is that even possible? Or is that completely unrealistic?
I think it's possible. And I think if you can strategically approach it in a way that defines your goals, right? Like, what's the vision for doing this and how are we aligning our goals? I mean, if you sum it up, when we talk about building like agile capabilities within an organization, what does it take to run the business? And what do we want to do to change the business, right? So looking at it through those two lenses, you could come up with a pretty robust strategy and actually really focus on transformation.
So let's say the 4 of us were going to start a company, right? And we're first to market. We got a brand new product. We got 100% market share. Okay. We're cruising along. Life's good. And maybe we're not profitable yet, but we got all the market share, right? Okay. All of a sudden, we didn't anticipate this, but a couple other companies come in and they have better solutions than we do, even though we have all the market share. Okay. They have better solutions. Maybe they have better user experience. They have better different things, right? So we say, hey, we are a company. We have a lot of people working for us. We're making money. Everything seems to be going well. Yet all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we're getting disrupted. What are we going to do about it? We're getting our ass kicked, maybe quality-wise. We're getting our ass kicked with user experience-wise compared to this other. Are we just going to? How can we change? Well, we have all these systems and processes in place, and all of these phase gates, and the way we fund, it takes us 2 years to build anything, right? So how can we compete with those other companies who are trying to flat out put us out of business? Well, we would probably have to work in a way which we would be able to learn quickly about what's working and what isn't versus our competitors. We would have to figure out how to produce higher quality. We would have to figure out how to get things out the door faster with that quality, right? We would have to figure out how to retain the best people and not have them go to the other company. Okay, all these types of things. To me, this is what a successful agile transformation is. This is I'm just coming up with a hypothetical situation of us running a company, right? But this is what it means to be agile, is to be able to learn with speed and quality and respect your people. I really feel like, this is just opinion, and maybe, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but for agile transformation to be successful, the secret sauce is lean. And that is because once you get past one team working in Scrum, for example, right? You got one Scrum team working in Scrum, everything's all good. You're not thinking about lean really. They can run that all day. It's fine. Once you start scaling and once you start talking about a company being able to deliver that with a bunch of teams and teams of teams and et cetera, the focus should be on reduction of waste, reduction of wait times and queues and batch sizes, these types of things, and doing more of a lean startup empirical way of working at a company level. And that's all lean based. So I really feel like the secret to the secret sauce of an agile transformation at a company level is lean. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about that. I just hear a lot of people talking about This is a typical bullshit that we hear all the time in the community. And you know what? I love all of the stuff at the team level. Like that's a lot of fun, and you need the team level to be successful for any of this stuff to work. So I get that, but I like the fact that there are other people out there thinking about how to achieve this at a business level, and in coming up with scaling ideas and portfolio management ideas and programs and solutions. And regardless of the framework, I don't really care. There's people thinking about how do I do this, because it's not so easy once you get past one team or two teams, right? So that's my take on it. Just I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I don't know if you guys agree with that, disagree with that.
I don't think it's hot. I think that it's reasonable and it's logical. And I kind of wrote this kind of earlier, this bullet in our notes, that the only challenge that I have with that, Troy, is that my mind completely says, yes, that's what I want to do. If the four of us had our company and we were in charge of changing, like pivoting to meet this like disruptor or whatever, like we would look at all of those things. We would put metrics for those things, and then we would come up with a lean plan, and we'd constantly inspect and adapt and do all that. Here's my problem, was that I work for the largest consulting company in the world, but when I get parachuted into a company and say, go fix them, I don't get to talk to those people that get to make those decisions that you were just talking about, the kind of transformation that you were just talking about. I don't ever get to talk. Now, maybe in certain areas of our portfolio we do, but I don't get to talk to those people. You know who I get to talk to? I get to talk to delivery directors and delivery, like IT VPs and such. Those are the people that sign our SOWs and our contracts. And you know what they say? Go help my teams deliver faster, right? And so oftentimes transformation starts with agile teams and the team effort, because that's what we get access to, and that's where we can have the most change. And now here's the caveat. If we show with a little bit of delivery transformation, a little bit of agility of delivery, right, then maybe we'll get introduced onto the business side of the house, maybe the early engagement part of things. Like, let's talk about how we do funding. We fund our work.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think you're both saying the same thing. Troy is really Murman's making the very valid point, which I don't think anybody would disagree with, is you start at the kernel, you start at the teams, right? And that's how you start, experiencing your wins to build some momentum, the whole Cotter thing. Troy, I agree with where you're going, saying, everything rises and, the sun rises and sets on the lean ways of working, right? And there is a way to transform using those fairly easy to understand principles. I just think it's hard to sell, right? Like, let's be honest here. Let's talk about the commodification of the agile enterprise, right? Well, I mean, it's harder to sell that, right? And not to bury the lead, but this episode is the first episode in a series we're going to do on transformations. One of which we're going to talk about transformations without frameworks. We're going to talk about to framework or not to framework. What are the pros and cons? But I do think I think you're onto something. I just think it's probably harder to sell.
Hold on. I hear both of you. Without team level agile being done well, we got nothing, right? We got nothing as far as if the teams aren't successful, then we're just scaling garbage, right? So I get that. Totally get that. Don't disagree with you at all, Chris. In fact, it makes a lot of sense, everything you just said. I'm just talking about the agile transformation for a company as a whole, right? And that once you get past the team level, okay, it does seem like I would rather scale lean principles and ways of working than scale basic team level agile stuff. That's my
I see what you're doing. Yep. No, I see what you mean. The way you said it originally, I heard it as what would we like aspirationally? What would we like them to do from a transformation perspective? And what are they going to agree to do like day one, kind of a thing? And what they'll agree to day one is go put Scrum in my teams, or go teach them safe and deliver some shit. And then we'll go.
In defense of safe, because everyone wants to shit on it. Safe is built on lean principles. Okay. if you actually like understand what they're trying to accomplish in there, it is built on lean principles, lean and agile principles. That's why they call everything lean, agile, and all this safe material. Okay. And if you look at what they've done at a portfolio layer and program, it's all Kanban systems, and you're all supposed to limit your WIP, and it's supposed to be flow metrics, and you're supposed to be doing all this stuff. It's all built in. That's why I'm like, when Jay, when you said you can't sell it, I'm like, we can sell it. It's just that people maybe aren't, I don't know, because it's all like SAFe is just one framework, right? But it's the most popular. So let's talk about it for 1 second.
Yeah.
It takes time.
But
it takes time.
Yeah, but
Yes.
one thing, Troy, you're saying, just one thing that's just kind of triggering me is,
Please.
I don't think it starts at the team. I think that, to me, when you talk about the house of lean, right? SAFe's built off the house of lean. The foundation is leadership. And if leadership is not leading transformation as their single driving focus to stay relevant in the market, because in 5 years when they're no longer in existence, it doesn't really matter. If that's not the focus, to me, I don't care how effective the teams are. You can always find a way to deliver and execute and code. Right. It can't just be an IT project.
Go fix my people.
It's got to be bigger. Yeah.
Go fix my people. That's what we get paid to do.
That's my point, gentlemen. It has to be bigger. Therefore, it has to be scaled. That's why the idea that Agile is only a team level thing just doesn't make any sense to me, because I'm like, in order for a business to be Agile, you have to do this at the leadership level, the middle tier levels. You have to be thinking with lean thinking, and you have to have the right mindset. It is a ton of work, and no wonder why it fails so much. If you think
we can agree that most people, when they tweet the word Agile, they just mean Scrum. And when people say the word Agile, they just, so if people want to talk about team level Agile, that's fine. Scrum works great. I love that. I've got 3 Scrum certs. It's a valid framework. It's great, but I'm with you.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
It's gotta, like, I'm with Andrew. Like, we get introduced to leaders and they say, I'm going to sign this piece of paper, so you go fix my people, go help them deliver. I'll be over here because I've got meetings, right? Well, that's not going to be a successful transformation. So maybe if we're going to talk about what is a good transformation, hey, maybe leadership that shows up and participates in the transformation, right?
Right. Totally agree. I mean, without leadership, I think as Deming said something like 94% of change comes from management, or I think that was a quote, something like that. So, or leadership or something like that. So yes, without leadership buy-in and, helping to move forward, it's likely going to fail. How could it succeed?
It would succeed, right, Troy? It would succeed in the sense that if you and I are doing waterfall, right, and we go to a Scrum system, right? So we start doing Scrum, and all these studies have shown this. I think Dan Messick throws this number around. If you just go from a typical waterfall delivery to utilizing Scrum, you're going to see 10 to 15% productivity improvement. Sure. That's it. That's almost guaranteed. But that's where it stops. And really, do you really want to go through all that pain for 15%? That doesn't seem worth the effort.
I refer to the glass ceiling of transformation all the time.
What Scrum is going to do is it's just going to show you where all the problems are and why your company is not able to have agility. It's just gonna show that, make it visual, and then you have to go fix it. So, and that's where the whole transformation part is. So Scrum is almost like a Trojan horse into a larger transformation, maybe.
But to go back to what how you frame this, like kicking us off on this, was, if you think about it, it's the one constant in all of this is people. And the one constant in people is adversity to change. So Why do we continue to try and ram it down people's throats as opposed to understanding where people are in an organization is and create the pace and cadence around how much can we absorb and withstand? How much pain? What's our threshold to do this as an organization and as a group of individuals? I just don't see, and I get that that's hard to quantify from a like money statement of work standpoint. How do you sell that? But to me, it's paramount. If this doesn't change, Agile will just become Waterfall 2.0 if it's not there already. And it's just, why bother going through all of this, similar to what you said, Jay, and having to deal with this pain for very little return, right? It just amplifies, like you said, Troy, it amplifies everything. And for some reason, I don't know why that's not like assumed that would happen. Why would people think that we wouldn't amplify all the dysfunction and workarounds that we've created our methodologies around?
Because we understand that when I say we, I mean just people that are coming in with an outsider perspective or a lean mindset or an agile mindset or something, that the only way that you're going to get the real benefit is to actually solve the systemic issues. So that is going to actually help enable delivery and predictability and all the stuff that people want, right? Not just putting people on a team, a Scrum team, and saying, okay, you guys are a Scrum team now. Meanwhile, you're just a bunch of individuals who meet every 15 minutes a day, right? I mean, that's what a lot of, just like how people bastardize Scrum like that, they also bastardize SAFe, and they bastardize every other framework, and they say, oh, this Scrum doesn't work, or SAFe doesn't work, or this doesn't work. No, it's just you're bastardizing it. So
people who've never been to a training class or whatever once, right?
So it's basically like, hey, I mean, that's why I know I'm ranting a little bit today, and so I apologize if that if that's good or not good.
Keep going.
It's just like, hey, are you telling me that if we had leadership at a company who had the right mindset, who was bought into this way of thinking, not that they had to be super agile people or anything like that, they just had the right mindset about change, like Andrew's talking about, and maybe some kind of lean thinking. You're telling me that a framework like SAFe couldn't work there if you had leadership buy-in, if they were the right leaders, right? Of course it could work. I mean, so it's not, what my point is not the frameworks, it's the problem. Okay. So everyone wants to just blame the frameworks, blame the tools, blame Jira, blame this, instead of no one wants to actually look at what the root cause of the problem is, and it's us. It's the people doing the work. It's the people. Are we effective or not? And I'm just talking about coaches. I'm talking about the people at the company, still everybody involved, right? So
okay,
it's a human problem, not a framework or tool problem.
I'm completely in. So let me play dumb and ask a question to kind of pose the counterpoint. So, all right. So Jay said earlier, the quote, the line of, okay, if you go from waterfall to Scrum, you're going to get 15% improvement in your delivery, right? So you're a VP of some org, and you've got a consultant in, and consultant says, well, if at a bare minimum, bring us in, we'll do Scrum, we'll give you 15% improvement in your delivery. Well, let's say he says, okay, 15% sounds pretty damn good. Like, that sounds like I get 15% more of my features delivered, 15% higher velocity, 15% whatever. I don't care about anything else because I've got my silos, I've got my little kingdom carved out, I've got my space that I've set up. But if I get 15% delivery, I don't mind paying for you, kind of a thing. What's the problem? What's the problem in just doing that?
There isn't.
There is no problem if that's the expectation.
Yeah.
But usually, let's be honest, in the Agile transformation, that is not the expectation. The expectation is the company is going to be Agile in a lot of cases.
I was in a leadership call not long, in a few months ago, where they looked at us and they said, we need to figure out a way to get 3x out of our delivery. Not 15%, 3x. 3 times.
What did you tell them? Hire Walter White, put meth in the water? Like that's one option. I mean,
3x.
So double the meth dosage. Okay, I'm still not seeing where the problem is in my scenario. What were you going to say, Leff?
Yeah, but this metrics conversation drives me insane, because having those same conversations that you're talking about, Chris, is what's your baseline? How did you measure it before? And you just get that look like, well, we didn't. So how the heck do you know you're increasing anything? It's stupid. It's such a waste of energy it's somebody that got hired to fulfill a role of whatever CTO, CIO, whatever it might be. And they sold the organization on spending X amount of dollars to do transformation. I'm just like,
listen, we were at our say-do percentage of the number of user stories that we could get out. Our say-do percentage is at 60%. If I can get it to like 80 or 85% of the number of user stories that get out, I will call this transformation good.
What's the
Okay.
ratio between the say do percentage of story points and the the amount of marshmallow leprechauns in a Lucky Charms box? That's what
Yeah, well, I know they're magically delicious. That's all I know about user stories.
And I will say not one of those things has to do with business outcomes whatsoever. So who gives a shit?
Amen.
I know.
Amen.
Right.
know.
I mean, so
I know.
back to whole Troy's thing about the success and leadership and all that. I just pulled up my notes from when I talked to Jorgen Hesselberg, right, friend of the podcast. He wrote Unlocking Agility. He talks about the 5 critical dimensions of agility are culture, technology, people, leadership, and organizational design. That's his 5, right? That's the Pentagon for him as the 5 key things that will truly enable an agile enterprise. And to go a step further, an agile enterprise has an agile strategy. And he defines an agile strategy as the balance between flow, value, and quality across the entire delivery system. Right? So all that stuff makes sense. So Troy, maybe to answer the question of what does a successful agile transformation look like, we could sit with those 5 pieces and bake out, like we were talking about the golden rule, right? The golden ticket. Could you theoretically sit down and bake out and say, as far as organizational design, and truly a successful transformation will result in an org that looks like this. They will have leaders that do this. Their technology stack will be enabled this. Is that even possible? Is this another exercise? Did I just talk us into another episode?
No, you probably. It sounds like what you're describing is like Ishikawa, or what he's saying is like, because there's when you go through Fishbone or Ishikawa of a problem, like there's the people, processes, right, the environment, organization, like all those. So he's just kind of renaming a lot of those. Not that I'm minimizing his work, but it sounds very similar, right? That like if you want to look at a problem, okay, is it a people problem? Is it a process problem? Is it a technical practices problem? Which for the record is the most off. Like I am so with like a dog with a bone in his mouth about technical practices. Like I'm so tired of coaching processes and then IT leaders just go, we ain't changing shit.
I just heard Spaceballs in my head. Right, some guy.
Keep firing, asshole.
We ain't changing shit.
Right, but if you think about some of the words that Troy is using, right? Like he's said quality quite a bit. So when we talk about technical practices, just in general, define quality, right? Organizations should define quality and quantitative and qualitative ways to measure what they're doing.
Less bugs. Just give me less bugs.
No. But here's an example of less bugs even being a shitty avenue for a transformation, right? Say you work for a company who has a third-party vendor who does all your QA work, right? And they are incentivized on finding defects, right? They're incentivized about finding bugs in the system. And then you introduce this transformation and you don't necessarily sell them on, okay, so, we're going through this transformation and here's what it means to you. And then you have developers who are losing their fucking minds because they're sitting and they're talking in real time and talking with, I'm writing code and I'm talking to Troy and Troy's my QA guy. And he's going, okay, I get it. Oh, I just tried this, Jay. It didn't work too well. So, okay, Troy, let me fix it. Okay, how does that work? Oh, Troy, Jay, that works great. Fantastic. And then Jay comes to find out this guy still created a goddamn bug in ALM because that's what they get paid on. Right? Yeah. Like, so maybe Troy, one of the solutions for a successful transformation is how to get there. Start with setting the right incentive for everybody. Like set the expectation for what your definition of success is, and then incentivize people to meet that definition of success.
Well, most transformations are, when it comes to a company, large initiative, you're supposed to have some kind of transformation office who is supposed to be doing this stuff.
That's episode number 9 in this series. Here we go. I gotta tie another beer on for that one.
I could rant for 45 minutes on agile transformation offices.
Well, my point is what you're saying is true, Jay, and I'm saying that that's supposed to be some people that are dedicated to this type of stuff, right? Basically. Right. Okay. Regardless of what we call it, but so
my favorite.
But a capon's a capon, right? Like you can have a ton of people in that position, but if they have no ability if they're castrated and have no ability to truly be empowered to be in that position, really doesn't. It's just another vertical.
Did you just say the word capon?
Yes,
I I did.
What is that?
Capon is a castrated rooster.
Okay,
What?
I learned something today.
I didn't know.
Are you kidding me?
I didn't know that.
Leff has used this example before numerous times about,
You
it's
grew up in the city. How the fuck do you know what that means?
You know what? That visual, that metaphor is extremely powerful.
Yes.
It spans many different areas. So it's a nugget for everyone.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Troy.
I know the difference between a steer and a bull, and that's the same difference. So
Thank you, fellas, because I needed that term.
capon. How do you spell that?
CAPON.
Capon.
Troy, now we got the capon framework, right?
Capon.
The capon framework for your low T transformations. Merman, we're on to something here. We're on to something.
That's a T-shirt. That's our first Agile Uprising T-shirt.
Oh my god! All right, fellas, I have a hard stop in 2 minutes.
Okay, did we really define what a good transformation is?
Well,
No, I think we just scratched the surface. I think this is going to seed it. We need like many hours to talk about this because clearly, I don't know. I love this subject, and I think you have such a group of individuals that have so much exposure to some of this work or all of this work. It's just a wealth of knowledge, and I would love to
pissed off
have
about
people
it right now.
Yeah, I would love to have people chime in and freaking argue with us if we're wrong, or violently agree with us if we're right.
All right.
We're gonna have to take notes and come back for I guess we need to come back and finish the good argument, and then we'll keep going.
Steve Denning, come on the show.
Yeah, open invitation.
So how about
then we'll yell at you about safe.
please don't get fake Agile, dead Agile, dark Agile, whatever. All right, so I'll take us home. So like we talked about earlier in this episode, this is going to be the first episode in the series on Agile transformations. We have a whole laundry list of topics. If you want to get in on the conversation, you think there's some things you want to discuss. If you have a bee in your bonnet, if you're a capon that's got low T and you're angry and you want to come on the show, please reach out to us via coalition.agileuprising.com. Find us on Twitter at Agile Uprising, and drop a line and let's chat about it. There's a whole plethora of shows we've got coming for y'all on this topic. So I'm not going to go around the horn because we got a hard stop. Murman, Drew, Troy, thank you very much for all your time. On behalf of all of us, I want to thank all of our listeners for listening. Blah, 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 blah. Patreon, Coalition, Twitter, Discord. This is the Agile Uprising podcast signing out.